Hello guys, welcome to my very first top 10 list on YouTube that I know of. A lot of my top 10 lists have been accidentally deleted by me, so hopefully this will be my first one if it doesn't get deleted. And thank you for watching. This one's about Digimon. For people who don't know, Digimon is not a cheap ripoff of Pokemon, so please don't say. But these are the top 10 of my favorite Digimon villains. Here we go. Number 10. 10 on my favorite list is Devimon. Devimon was the one weird monkey Digimon villain that strongly resembled Elvis Presley. But although he was pretty horrible as a villain because he never really fought the Digidestins head on, instead he set other people out to fight him and used his dark network to fight. That's why mostly he's at number 10. If they would have made more fighting scenes where he's actually fighting, he would probably be higher up on the list. Number 9. Number 9 on my list is actually Kenimon and Mummymon, because basically they were both the same guys because they were always fighting together. Unlike Edamon, they would actually have real fights with the Digidestins, but it would seem they were just puppets and just pawns of Ikawas and Myotismons. Nothing much, and they also ran away a lot too when things got too challenging. But although they were funny as the villains, but they were somewhat good. Number 8. Number 8 on my list are the Digimon Divas from Season 3. I'm counting them all as one villain because they basically were all together, and even though they came at different times, but if they were just on their own and weren't and Divas and the stuff, they probably wouldn't be very good villains. So they'd probably be like a mini villain, something, not just something to fill an episode or something. But honestly, they were good in the sense of a team villain organization, but they ended up being good in another way once you looked at it. But ultimately, they were villains because they ultimately fought the Digidestins. Number 7. Number 7 is Lucymon. Lucymon is basically one of my most favorites and least favorite of villains because ultimately he looked pretty sweet, but then he looked more like he would be a good guy, a defenseless celestial Digimon that would be more on the good guy's side than the bad guy's side. And then he goes into chaos mode, then he looks pretty good, but he ultimately as the ultimate villain of the series 4, I think they could have done better with it because I thought Terubimon was a pretty good boss, but he just ended up being a pawn too. But altogether, in a nutshell, Lucymon was a pretty good villain. Number 6. Number 6 is another group villain organization thing in Digimon, is the Dark Masters. Although they ultimately got taken out faster than Mummymon, Edamon, and all the other villains, they were had a pretty good thing going, even though I didn't like Mummybon being in there because all like Lucymon, he looked more of a good kind of Digimon. He looked more like a Digimon that would help the Digimons rather than fight them. And Seedramon is just Metal Seedramon wasn't even really that good, and he kind of looked more like a less like a villain type Digimon, but ultimately they had a good thing going, configuring the Digiworld how they wanted to, taking over with more Digimon for more force power. They had a good thing going, but they obviously weren't as strong as they anticipated, and they underestimated the Digidestineds big time. Number 5. Number 5 is Oikawa, because he actually not only acted like a villain, had the attitude of a villain, he looked like a stone cold villain. He looked creepy as hell. Like the whole time, even at first glance, before he even announced him as the villain, I thought he was gonna be some kind of bad guy that's gonna do something bad, that will do something to threaten the Digidestins. And ultimately, he was pretty good as a villain, but when it came out, spoiler alert, this is a spoiler. If you don't want to have this spoiler and you don't know what the spoiler, then you might want to fast forward. But Oikawa ended up being a good guy, just possessed by Myotismon, but I still think was a very good villain and deserves to be on this list. Number 4. Number 4 is the Digimon Emperor. This was probably one of my most favorite villains of the Digimon series. But why did he get number 4 if he was one of your favorites? Because he ultimately turned into one of my favorite Digidestins. Even though he was a villain, he didn't really know what he was doing actually hurt real things. As you can remember, he had said that he thought the Digiworld was nothing but a game and all the Digimon were just useless programs. So he never really knew that, and plus he was being controlled like Mummymon and Arbukenimon and Oikawa. He was being controlled by Myotismon to heart with the dark spores, and mostly it wasn't his fault that he was evil, but when he was the Digimon Emperor, he was a pretty good villain. He had a good stuff going, collecting Digimon, putting Digimon and controlling Digimon with dark rings and stuff and making them fight against each other. He was seriously ruthless. But ultimately he came out to be one of the kindest guys of the Digidestins. Number 3. Number 4 is King Drazen, basically the main villain of season 5. Season 5 was probably one of my favorites, like middle of my favorites list. But King Drazen was probably one of my favorite villains because he had the ability to have total control over the digital world, and he wasn't just like take over the world and destroy the Digimon. He was all like destroy the real world and restart the digital world, something that will make him have total command over it. And he was pretty good as a villain, and and the ending of Digimon Season 5 was pretty sweet. He is probably one of my most favorite villains of Digimon. Number 2. Number 2 is Devimon. This was actually pretty much my favorite Digimon, saying that he had like everything planned out. He had everything planned out. I like the idea of the black gear, splitting it up. It just that the only thing that I was mad about is why they killed him off so early. I think they should have like expanded on him a lot more instead of just having a new villain named Edamon. I mean, Edamon wasn't even that good, and it would have been more enjoyable if they would have put more to Devimon than Edamon. I mean, Edamon would have been more okay as a side villain, but Devimon was pretty sweet. It just that he was pretty good villain. It's just that they had to make Angemon so overpowering the first time he digivolved. I mean, gosh, one hit and that's all that took from what I remembered. Drum roll, please, and the number 1 top favorite Digimon villain is... Yep, you guessed it, Myotismon. This guy cheated death more than Tiger Woods cheated on his wife. He pretty much died, came back stronger, died, came back stronger, died, came back stronger, probably about 100 times. And he was pretty strong to begin with. He had all the plans. He didn't take no crap. He was in it to win it. He was practically probably the most biggest challenge the Digimon, the Digidestineds ever faced. I mean, like, biggest challenge, far above even Opaklimon could even do. He did more damage to the Digidestineds than anyone ever did. He basically ran the show of all the villains in season 1. He basically ran the show in season 2, and he probably, if they would have made a fourth continuation of Digimon, if they would have made the third season a continuation of season 1 and 2, then he would probably run that show too. Myotismon was probably is the best Digimon villain out there. He always was out for the blood. He didn't take no crap. And that's why he's my number 1 favorite Digimon villain. So how was the video? I'm sorry if I stuttered and misspoke a lot. It's just my first video and I didn't really rehearse for this one. So I kind of winged it. And I actually do a lot horrible when I wing videos. And probably next time I'll actually write a script and just test if writing a script does anything better for my stuttering and misspeaking. Other than my vocal errors, please feel free to tell me what your favorite Digimon villains were and what Digimon villain should I have added. And if you like this video and like the top 10 list, please subscribe to my channel. Maybe even like this video. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your time. And this is Corey Booth signing out.